One of the biggest reveals in the gaming world this year taking place earlier today, Google unveiling a new platform many are referring to as a Netflix of gaming that could shake up the video game industry. Josh Lipton was at the Google keynote at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. He's got all the details on the tech giant's big gaming bet. Hey, Josh.
Melissa, a game platform for everyone. That's how Google CEO Sundar Pichai is describing his company's big new push into the $135 billion video game market. It is called Stadia. It's a new game service for devices running Google's Chrome browser, and it could upend the traditional video game market because it's going to mean that fans will soon be able to stream complex, high-level games over the internet right to their phones, tablets, and televisions. That means no need for PCs, no need for expensive game consoles, and Google executives say Stadia is a game changer.
And we want games to be available to everyone without the barriers or the limitations of the hardware that they may have in their home. We'll take care of the hardware in our data center, and all you need is a laptop or a PC or a TV to stream to. So you don't have to have that expensive custom hardware to get the best possible game experiences. And over time, we think that that will dramatically increase the game audience for everyone.
Now, Google says Stadia will launch this year. The company isn't yet detailing the business model, though. So is this going to be a subscription, or will Google take a portion of all proceeds spent on Stadia? And remember, there is plenty of competition when it comes to video game streaming. Microsoft, we know, is pursuing this technology. So too, reportedly, is Amazon. One company that moves sharply higher in today's trade, check out AMD. Google did confirm that this new service will use AMD chips. I also caught up here with Oppenheimer's Andrew Urquhart. He covers the video game market. He was pretty impressed with what he saw from Google. His point being, listen, if you can stream these really graphics-rich games anytime, anywhere, and instantly, that is a big deal. He did have questions, though, and one he had was, are these big game developers, they're really going to buy into Google's vision here? They're going to partner with Google, even if that means giving up some of their game proceeds. Is that worth the trade-off if you could potentially reach that many more gamers around the world? Melissa, back to you.
Is there any concern, Josh, on the part of Google executives that they're basically asking for the video game developers outside of Google to share their content, in exchange for whatever money, but they're also going to be competing with them at the same time by launching their very own studio to develop their own games?
Yeah, no, I think there's big questions here for those guys. One is you could reach that many more gamers if this is successful, but you do potentially lose some real flexibility here. You're going to lose potentially distribution power here and authority. You're going to potentially also give up some game proceeds. So big questions here. They get right to the heart of the content. What is the content? What are going to be the killer games that are really going to draw people in? I did try to push Phil Harrison on that point, and he simply said, listen, a lot more about the actual catalog. We're going to have more about that launch catalog later, maybe this summer, he said. They are working with big developers, big and small. I did think on the content front, it was interesting, too. They are going to launch, Melissa, their own studio, so that's a big deal potentially also here.
Yep. Josh, thank you. Josh Lipton at the Google Game Developers Conference out in San Francisco. You just said before, it's a big deal. This is a big deal.
I think it is a big deal. I mean, I have 4 children, 2 of which are always in front of the television, fighting for airtime. They're on the Fortnite crazy. And I do think this is the way to get in. Google has not been effective at trying to get social into the platform. YouTube has been a screaming success, but I think this will really start pulling in some eyeballs. I really think it's a win for Google. Is it enough to counteract the negative headlines that we see in the press right now about privacy issues? No. But is it something where I think they're building for the future? 100%.
And there's been a lot of negativity just in the stocks themselves. So you've had a couple releases already in the first quarter, which were disappointing, frankly, in terms of the growth outlook for companies at one point that were priced for growth. But whether it's EA, whether it's Take-Two, whether it's Activision, they all hit the skids. There's been a major bounce, though, over the last couple weeks in some of them, and even couple months in some others. I continue to like Activision because I just think relative to their peers, they're cheaper. They've got Overwatch, but then they've got Diablo. They've got a couple big titles coming out late 2019, 2020. And it gets back to, with the Googles and the guys providing the hardware, it's really a content game. And what is going on in your pipeline, what's going on in your catalog, and we've talked about this too. At some point, these guys become cheap enough where they are content for a big media company to buy.
We were just talking about Apple's TV streaming service, which is going to be launched next week. And you made the comment, Apple is a hardware company.
Yeah.
Would this have been a smarter move for Apple to do, given that it's a hardware company?
No, actually, because that's what they're trying to do here is ultimately reduce a lot of the hardware. The problem they're trying to solve is that you have to buy these multiple consoles and you can't stream it. So I actually love this move by Google. I think it fits right into what they do. They can pull some levers with some other parts of their industry. And I would be afraid if I were, at some point in time, the big gaming companies, because to borrow a line from Jeff Bezos, your profit margin is my opportunity. And that's what Google's doing here.
But to use the parallel for Netflix, are you as a studio afraid of Netflix now? I mean, I guess maybe you are because they are competing with original content.
Should be.
And is that metaphor going to hold for this industry?
To answer sort of the tangential question, I think Apple, instead of Apple and Disney trying to fight this land war with Netflix that I don't think they can win, you know, I think they're better suited to go and look at a Take-Two at 19 times forward earnings, which would probably be a $15 to $16 billion deal. Get into that space because that's, to me, where the tremendous growth opportunities are.
Or maybe Google could go out and buy one of those game makers at this point.
They're
They're going to launch their own studio.
But you're setting up this kind of parallel, which could be going on in the gaming space, where again you have the legacy, essentially conduit or distributors with the guys that have content, that are the games, and it comes down to what are the games that the kids want to play. And I agree that I think Google. I think this is a great move for Google. I think it's just another lever, as Brian talked about, for a company that has probably 5 different businesses that are north of $1 billion.
All right.